Folks, we are at it again. Welcome to another edition of the Pot Podcast with Tigmatic. It's your boy. Today, I have a special guest, and this guest is special to me because this is someone that I go to for inspiration. I look for and for when I need inspiration, when I need to hear someone talk positive. This person brings life into words in ways that so many others can't, and he's done it for years. This man has countless number ones out here, albums out here for people. He's a songwriter, he's a teacher, he's an author. The one, the only Jason Blume out here. How you feeling, sir?
I am better than I deserve. How you doing today?
I am okay. I'm okay. I'm glad that you're here,
Me too.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the pot. So, before I get into it, I want you to give yourself an introduction as well, because that's what I let all my guests do, to explain who they are in their own words, because there are things that, we're going to unpack. And as we unpack them, it's a treat for people. So, introduce yourself the way only you can.
Okay. You already know my name's Jason Blume. It's B-L-U-M-E. And I am the luckiest songwriter ever. That's who I am. And as we talk, I'm going to talk about really my favorite topic, which is how to get lucky. But I got real lucky along the way. And I think I've had, I don't even know how many singles I've had on the charts. I know that at one point I was the only writer, or one of the only writers, to have singles at the same time on Billboard's pop, R&B, and country charts. And at that point, I had 2 songs on the country charts. So that was pretty amazing. What I'm probably best known for is writing with and for Britney Spears, but please don't hold that against me. Anyway, but I first got a recording on her very first album when she was an unknown kid, and I didn't care. Oh, big deal. Some 16-year-old kid who can't sing great recorded my song. Okay. And of course, we know what happened. But then when the second album, the Oops, I Did It Again album, came around, I actually became Britney's first collaborator with my co-writer, who some of you might remember if you go way back, awesome R&B artist named Eugene Wilde. And and Eugene and I had written a song for Britney. And then it wound up that she had another idea. I might get into this more later. She had another idea for how the song should end and asked if we would get with her. So Eugene and I got with her, and that's how we became Britney Spears' very first collaborators ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I got to produce her vocal on the demo, which surprised me, because I actually said to her, if you can believe this, I actually said, wow, you can really sing. And she just sort of laughed and said, yeah, everybody thinks I can't sing. So I'm pretty well known for writing with and for Britney, but also the Backstreet Boys on their Millennium album, which last time I checked, I think it had sold something like 24 million copies. And I hope we'll get into the story of why I say I'm the luckiest songwriter in the world. And in many instances, we have to make our own luck, because that's what happened with the Backstreet Boys situation that really was completely life-changing. So I wrote a lot for TV and film, also Scrubs, Friday Night Lights, a lot of stuff. And along the way, I got to share an Emmy Award for a documentary, and then I got a nomination for another one. And the reason I say I share is it's actually the show that won the Emmy, and then all the people who contributed major aspects to it in addition to the music, the director, producer, people like that, we all got to share that Emmy Award. And, I'm jumping all over the place, but I have to share a story, because talking about that Emmy Award, this just came up. We just got to see the Olympics.
Right.
Well, back when I was living in Los Angeles and incredibly poor, I'll talk about that.
Before you get into that, though, wait. Before you get into it, let's go. Let's dial it back a bit, just a bit, okay?
Okay.
Because I have a heap load of questions for you.
Okay.
And I want people to be inspired. You already know. You and I know what's going to happen next because we spoke on it. But so, tell the people how you got started into songwriting to begin with.
Okay.
That is the major key that we want to start with first. Tell people how that happened.
Okay. If I really want to go back in time, as a very small child in Philadelphia.
And that's where we want to go.
Yes. My father, and when I say a small child, maybe I was 3 or 4 years old. My father owned a newsstand in Camden, New Jersey, which was right across the bridge from Philadelphia. And every Saturday morning, I would drive with him to pick up the rent from the newsstand. And he would put classical music on the radio and would ask me, what do you see inside that music? And of course, it was all instrumental. And I would close my eyes and I would always see, knights in shining armor. And I would see soldiers and all this kind of stuff the little 3-year-old boy's going to see, or 4-year-old boy. And I look back and I go, that's what I do now. I often, if I'm writing to a track, I'm answering the question, what is inside this track? What is this music saying to me? So that's probably where I got my real start, in my car, in my father's car on the way to Camden, New Jersey and back, imagining what was inside the classical music.
Right.
But then when I was about 12, no, you know what else? Something else happened. My 3rd grade teacher asked us to write a poem. And my poem was called Spring. And it was all about, the flowers and whatever. And she paraded me from one class to the next to say, listen to this wonderful poem. And at 3rd grade, it was like, wow, I can get all this adoration and all this admiration for writing something. Maybe this is something I'm good at. And so it's her fault. It's Mrs. Brain's fault that I am who I am today. I started writing when I was 12, started writing songs. And my father had played mandolin, and I would strum a few chords on his mandolin. And it was like I was born knowing how to play it, maybe from hearing him play every single night of my life. I just sort of intuitively knew how to play. And I would strum chords and I would sing. So that started when I was about 12. And I wrote a lot of songs. That was like my catharsis, my way to get out my angst, and whatever it is I was feeling went into those songs.
Right.
So that was when I was around 16, I started to get really serious about this. And I wanted to be the recording artist. I didn't want to write songs for other people. I wanted to be the star.
You wanted to be the cool guy.
Yes, I was in like one band after another. I was in, and I was always the lead singer and playing electric mandolin. Yeah, that was real popular. So, but I would be the lead singer. I was in one band that rehearsed in my garage, was Mother Funk. And it was just one thing after another, trying, getting my feet wet, finding out who am I as an artist. And like I said, that started when I was about 16. Then I started playing more acoustic music. And I played a lot of clubs in the Philly area. There was something
Tell them
called
what part of
Head
Philly you're
House
from.
Square. Pardon me?
Tell them what part of Philadelphia you're from.
I was born in South Philly, like around 7th and Porter on a little tiny street.
Hey.
But I mostly grew up in the Northeast, at like basically near like Bustleton and Cotton. I went to Northeast High School.
Hey.
And
I went to Alany.
And what?
I went to Alany. So that's not too far from each other.
Yeah, I remember playing. I was in the school marching band, so I remember football games against Alney High.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I played at Head. I think it was called Head House Square down like around Society Hill. That was like a regular weekend gig, and I got a gig at a restaurant called Focolare, where I serenaded people. I would go from table to table and play mandolin and get big tips. And, for me, like almost a dream came true when I got to play the Main Point, which was like the main club for acoustic musicians. Everybody who was anybody had played there. And I was in a trio. We had like a violin and another guitarist. And I just did like 100 bands that never got any farther than my garage and didn't deserve to. But I kept writing and writing. I went to Penn State when I was 17. I graduated early, and my degree was going to be my degree was going to be psychology. And I just was passionate about that, but constantly playing clubs, coffee houses, whatever, at Penn State. And I used a lot of my college credits, my elective credits, to take music classes. So I studied composition, I studied theory. Maybe one of the most important things I studied was voice. I got to, as part of being, paying for college, I got to have voice lessons.
Right.
And by the time I graduated with a degree in psychology, I was really getting serious about wanting it to be music. But, I did the smart, practical thing, and I got a job in a Philadelphia suburb, Lafayette Hills, at a psychiatric hospital. And I was there for more than a year. And the turning point in my life, and during that whole year, by the way, I was playing clubs and stuff on the weekends. And the turning point came when the head of the hospital brought me in and said, we like you and we want to make you an offer. We're going to pay for your graduate degree. In exchange.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so
but listen to this.
Let me ask you.
Wait a minute. In exchange, like selling your soul, in exchange, I was agreeing to 5 years after I'd graduate to stay at that hospital. And I was scheduled for a vacation right after that conversation. And I walked along the beach, and I knew, as true as I ever knew anything in my soul, I would never forgive myself if I did not give my dream a chance. And I came back to my job, and I said to the boss, I thank you with all my heart, but I'm giving my 2 weeks notice, and I'm moving to Los Angeles to be a recording artist. And everybody, of course, thought I was out of my mind, which I probably was. I was too stupid to be scared. I had $400 in the whole world. I had no credit cards. And I moved cross country with $400 in my pocket and no place to live and no job waiting for me. And I just was going to be a superstar like in a year. And I knew I would have a Mercedes in my driveway. I didn't even think that would take a year. And I was right, because I got a job 15 hours a week taking rich people's Mercedes to the car wash. And so I'm tooling around LA in a Mercedes and imagining it's mine.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
yeah.
But to
And
piggyback off what you said, right, about working in the psych ward, give the people a little bit about what that was like for you.
I liked it. It was interesting. I felt like I was helping people. And, I could very well have gone down that path. I was leading group therapies. I was, really talking one-on-one with people, trying to help them. And it was a good thing, but it wasn't my dream. It wasn't my heart.
Right.
And so I had to follow what I knew I needed, what I really wanted. So there I am in LA, driving around somebody else's Mercedes, and I got into a songwriting workshop, and it was a scholarship kind of thing. You had to apply. Now, I had done a demo of 3 songs before I left Philadelphia, just me singing with a guitar. And I used that to get in as my audition piece. I got into the workshop, and
What was the song? What was the song?
Pardon me?
What was
were
the song?
songs? Are you asking what were the songs?
Yes, sir.
One was called On the Balcony. One was Reflections. And I have no idea what the other one was, but they were terrible. But I sounded good on them. And I guess that the workshop people could imagine that there was potential, but I'm not sure why, because they were not good. And at my first workshop, oh my God, it was in Beverly Hills in a mansion owned by a guy who had written Cry Me a River, Cry Me a River. And, it had been recorded, I think, at that point by 111 artists. And actually, I have to share a great story that he told about Ella Fitzgerald had wanted to record the song. And there was a line in the song that her record label said, oh, no, a black singer cannot sing the line, told me love was too plebeian. They're like, plebeian? What kind of word is that? You've got to change that word. And Arthur.
There you go.
And he said that years later, he watched Ella Fitzgerald perform that song at a huge venue and just thought, I did the right thing. So anyway, back to the class. I would leave. I guess I didn't tell you this part, because I was only working 15 hours a week driving the Mercedes, and I hardly had any money, but I didn't want a full-time job. I could have gotten a job in a psychiatric hospital or any kind of job, but I did not give up everything. A job, relationships, family, everything, security. I didn't give that up to go work 40 hours a week in LA.
Right.
So I did not mind being poor. I moved into one room. And when I say one room, no kitchen, no bathroom, a room. Everybody else who lived in that building was either a prostitute or there were quite a few junkies, but also people who did porn. And they entertained guests also, very loudly. I got a good education. So people hear this story, and then, like I say to them, and I was so poor one time when I had no food, I pulled out the cushions from the couch and I found 11 cents. And I used it to buy the only thing I could find for 11 cents that was cat food. And I ate a can of cat food. And I thought, well, for 11 cents, it's not that horrible. I mean, it was like brown and real fishy and stuff, but it was tuna. So I started buying cat food. on a regular basis. And right around now, a lot of times people will say to me, "Oh man, how you sacrificed." And I just have to smile and say, this was like the happiest time of my life.
I
I'm
can
doing
imagine.
what
I
I
can imagine.
love. Yeah, I'm writing songs every single night. I'm networking. I'm taking classes. And the first class that I attended in that mansion, I learned that I did not know anything about songwriting. I did not know the most basic aspects. And it was a shock and terrible. But at the same time, I realized these things are learnable. You're not born knowing that the title of a song is supposed to be in the chorus if you're writing a
Absolutely.
pop song or a country song or whatever. Um, you know, and this was something that just was foreign to me. I told you that one of my songs I had recorded was called On the Balcony. It had nothing to do with a balcony, and it never said those words. I just happened to have written it while I was sitting on a balcony. I didn't understand. I mean, I did not know anything. Not only did I not know the song structures, like building with verses and choruses and bridges and that kind of thing for pop songs and
All
for
right, so
country
let's
songs and
stop right
Christian
there for
songs.
a second.
Yeah,
Let's stop right there for a second, right?
yeah.
Okay, so as you go to the classes, learning how to write, and like you just said, that's something that was a big gem for a lot of artists that that are watching. They might not be watching now, but after the interview, I'm pretty sure they'll watch, right? So that's something that you put out there for the people to make sure they understand and know. Make sure that you have the title of the song in the chorus, folks. That's something that's very important. Like this legend in front of me just said. You
You know,
know,
not only does the title need to be in the chorus, the whole lyric should be leading to that title. It's the heart of the song. It's not just something that you tack on. Um, so basically that title is, like I said, it's it's the essence of your song. It's everything has to lead to that logically, that when the title hits, it should be like this satisfying, oh, and leading me to. And I had no idea about that. Listen, before we go further, I need to tell your listeners you can learn so much of this stuff from me for free at my website, jasonblume.com, JASONBLUME.com. You click on songwriting articles. There's 135 magazine articles and lessons that I've written for BMI's magazines, and they are all free, and you don't need to do anything. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do anything. They're there for you, and they will answer seriously every question that you can come up with. I mean, it's incredible that every time somebody sends me a question, the answer is check out this article or check out that article. And
right.
I'm really so honored that I have been told two things. One is that somebody learned more from reading those articles than 4 years in a music university. The other thing that just floored me is there was a publication that wrote that those articles are the most comprehensive library of songwriting information available anywhere. And it's free. Check
Right.
it out.
So
You are going to
let's talk.
learn so
Let's
much.
right. So let's talk a bit about not just the master class. Let's talk about how after writing for Britney, what did that do? What did that do for
Ooh.
you personally? Like, what was the next thing that happened after that?
You know, what did it do for me personally?
Yes.
Oh my God, did it change my life? Um, it gave me the confidence in a lot of ways, the validation. Wait a second, I've got a cat who wants to make a special appearance on screen. Say hello. Say hello. Yes, I am the
Hello.
crazy cat man when I'm not doing songwriting. It validated everything I had. At that point, I'd already had hit singles on the charts.
Right. So tell us a bit about those. Tell us a bit about those as well.
Okay. So the point I'm wanting to make though is that I had already had success before Britney, but this took things to an entirely different level. But backing up, I had a song recorded. I told you earlier in my introduction, I am the luckiest songwriter on earth. I really am. And one of the things that happened to me was, this is funny, a kid named Jason, but he spelled it J''S''O''N, recorded a song of mine called I'll Never Stop Loving You. And he was so good. And everybody assumed, because the name was Jason, they assumed that's me, except I was not a 13-year-old adorable black kid. It was not me. So that video went to #1 in the US, and it wasn't a massive hit, but it charted, I think, in the 20s, which is not bad. But it was #1 down under, #1 New Zealand, #2 Australia. So my point is, I'd had that. I'd also had a top 10 country single that paid for the house, and therefore it played on the doorbell of the house that it paid for. I had always said, if I could see, it's like this was so far beyond my dreams. It was almost crazy to think I would ever buy a house. Like, my dream was to have a 1-bedroom apartment with my own bathroom and my own kitchen. A house was like a joke. I couldn't imagine that ever happening, but that happened. And, I have done so many things in my life, not just my career, that are quote unquote impossible. And, what's hilarious is right this minute, I have a single on an album by this woman named Nikki French, and she's British, and she represented the UK in Eurovision, which is like the Olympics of songwriting if you're outside the US. It's like it's nothing in the US, but it's massive everywhere else around the world.
Okay.
So she had represented the UK, and then she went on to have a couple of huge records. Well, she recorded this song of mine called Nothing is Impossible. And I thought, now that is an appropriate name, because that song was written 21 years ago.
Yeah, and that's the one that's out now, right?
It's out right now. And that album is #1 in multiple countries, on the dance charts, on the main pop music charts. And last time I checked, I can't remember, I think maybe it was number 18 in the US on the iTunes dance charts.
Okay.
And, so it just really in some ways says nothing is impossible. But let me tell you something. Some things are impossible. Let's get real.
So let's talk about that.
I'm not going to be the next Justin Bieber. I'm like, I missed that boat by 40 years, and that's impossible. But sometimes we need to let our dreams meander and take us where they're going to take us. Right. And an example of that is when I was really riding high with all these big hits. I was asked by a songwriting organization, Nashville Songwriters Association International, NSAI. They said, would you write maybe 6 lessons for our students? I was like, sure. and I wrote 6 lessons, and they went out to more than 100 chapters around the world. And the person who had asked me to do it said, wow, they really love these. Would you do 6 more? And then, of course, again, would you do another 6 more? And at this point, I've written 18 songwriting lessons. And a friend of mine said, you know, I know a literary agent in New York, and you ought to put these in a book. Let me put you in touch with her. So I made one phone call, and she said, I like this idea. She asked me to do an official book proposal, which is a whole other thing. And she sent it to one place, Billboard Books, and they said yes.
That's
And
awesome.
it's like I did not realize at the time how impossible this was. It is incredibly hard to get a New York literary agent. And then to have her place the book with one call. It was like insane. But my point is, I was saying, sometimes we have to let our dreams take us different places than where we think we're going to go.
Absolutely.
Just like, you know, when I had been 28 years old for 6 consecutive years, meaning lying about my age because I wanted to be a recording artist, and at 28, I was already too old.
I think at one point in life, all of us fellas has done that to impress people at some point. You know, when I was 13, I would tell girls I was 15 because I had a full beard already.
Wow.
So yeah, I can relate to that in some sort of way. But my next question to you is, okay, who is a person that you've collabed with and worked with that you'll never forget, and why?
Oh, such an easy answer. I don't know if you'll remember Melissa Manchester. She had some really big pop hits. Don't Cry Out Loud. And she won a Grammy for You Should Hear How He Talks About You. You should hear what he says. I worshipped Melissa Manchester. I worshipped at her feet. When I was underage in Philadelphia, I got my father to take me to the Bijou Cafe downtown and pay off somebody at the door to let me in because I just would die to see Melissa Manchester in person. Listen to this. Flash forward. You're not going to believe this. Melissa Manchester came to stay at my house and write with me. I thought I was going to drop dead. I would just come out into the kitchen in the morning and say, oh my God, Melissa Manchester's in my kitchen. And she'd be in her pajamas. And I'll tell you something. How old were you? Pardon me?
How old were you then?
Oh, I was successful already. I was probably 40. And, you know, it came late for me, by the way, for people who are thinking I'm too old. When I was actually, so I was older than 40 with Melissa Manchester, because I know that when I was 39 years old, I did not have a bank account because I did not have $5 to put into a bank account. I had, nothing. And again, I was not unhappy. I was very happy because I knew I was going to be successful. And, and I remember then, flash forward, it all happened when I was 39. And in that very short period of time is when I had the 4 singles on Billboard charts. Or I should say I was on 4 Billboard charts because it was actually 3 singles, because it was the same song was on like the pop chart and the R&B chart, just a remix version. So I try to tell people, some things are impossible. At 40, I was not going to get a pop record deal.
Right.
The artists that I was emulating, who I wanted to be at that point in time, I wanted to be the child of Prince and George Michael. And, like a real,
I
like,
see you hold those
soulful.
to a high regard. And
Yeah.
my question to you was going to be, what was it like to work with Jesse McCartney? Like, what was that like?
You know, it was one of the stories with Jesse McCartney has to do with being the luckiest songwriter on earth. When he recorded a song I wrote with Andrew Fromm, and the song is called "Why Don't You Kiss Her." When he recorded that, he was on a little tiny independent label called Sugar Beats that
Okay.
nobody ever heard of. And I really didn't care. I mean, I didn't think it would earn anything. Now, flash forward a year later, and Jesse McCartney is starring on a TV series, and he's a teen heartthrob. The show was
Right.
Summerland. And suddenly he gets a record deal with Disney, and Disney puts my song on his album that has now sold more than 2 million copies. But on top of that, there were so many incredible sync licensing opportunities. And listen, remind me if I forget, we've got to
Break
talk
that down
about
a bit to the
sync
people too.
licensing. Pardon me?
Break that down a bit to the people. Give them some insight on the business aspect of it as far as that sync licensing deals.
Yeah, we've
And,
got to
and, and
talk about that. It's
yeah,
really
it's
important.
important.
But
It's very
first,
important.
but let me say first that I made more money from the sync licensing. And what is sync licensing? Licensing your song for television, for movies, for commercials, for video games, anything like that, where it's going to be used with a visual. So, because essentially what sync licensing, SYNC, what it means is synchronizing to picture. That's what it stands for. So anyway, I made more money from sync licensing that Jesse McCartney song than I did from 2 million sales, because it wound up in a Disney TV show called Kim Possible, and it was in a movie. So anyway, I have to tell a story before we get to sync license. A woman who had executive produced the Jesse McCartney album said to me, my mother loves your song so much. She said she wishes she had written it. And I'm sort of smiling, oh, that's sweet. Isn't that nice? And I had no idea until she said to me, oh, by the way, in case you don't know, my mother is Carole King. Did you hear the screaming, Rashawn? Because you could have heard it across the ocean. I thought I was going to drop dead that Carole King loved my song and wish she had written it. Sync licensing. Listen, when I started teaching about 30 years ago, I would always ask my students, what's your intention for the song? What is your hope? Meaning, are you the artist and you want to put it on your album? Or do you want an outside artist, somebody other than you, to record the song? Or, you just wrote it for yourself, for your own fun. And it would never even cross my mind 30 years ago to say, or did you write it for TV and film? Now, the most common answer, almost always when I say, what's your hope or intention for this song? The answer is sync licensing, TV and film. Why? First of all,
You literally said it before I was going to say it. I was going to ask why.
Yeah. Why is because you tell me who the hip hop artists and pop artists are who do not write their own material. It's like zero. Nobody's going to go look out and say, well, I'm looking for a rap to record that somebody else is going to be credited exclusively for. It doesn't happen.
Well, that
You know,
goes back into the conversation you and I was having before air.
mhm,
Right now in this time, there's actually a big debate about Drake. You know,
mhm,
Drake raps, but he also sings, right?
mhm.
So there's a lot of people out here questioning his pen. And then a lot of the ghostwriters are coming forward saying, hey, I wrote his rap lyrics. Now,
Mm.
for me as a rap artist myself personally, I feel as though if you're a rapper, your ideas should go straight to the paper and they be your own because you should be writing based off experience. But as a singer, it's totally different because like you do, this is your career. So you do this. You write the song for the singer and the singer goes out there and execute. So that's a
But
totally different lane.
but there's a big difference in that when I write a song, but a singer records it and performs it, I'm credited as the writer. But
Right,
you're talking about somebody who's a ghost writer, who's
right,
not being credited.
correct.
Um, you know, I think if they're getting paid an insane amount of money for their contribution, maybe it makes sense. But I can't imagine doing that. I think that is just absolutely horrible. And it makes me think about the Lizzo song "Truth Hurts," where that opening line, and I think opening lines in songs are so important. I'm trying to think the exact opening line. I had a DNA test, so I'm 100% that bitch. Well, it turned out she didn't write that line, which to me is the best line in the song and the line that made me crank up the radio and go, oh man, this is something special. But in time, they worked it out, and the person who actually wrote that line is credited on the song. Now, I'm not going to say that there are no situations that really are just so unethical and ugly where an artist says, you know what, there's only one thing missing for me to record this song, and that's my name on it. And I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen, and I won't name names, I won't. But I do know superstars who do that. But there are also many, many situations where you co-write with, essentially you're co-writing with the artist. You might not ever be in the same room, you might not ever even meet them, but if they're going to take the essence of what it is that you've written and they're going to make it into another song, you got to be credited for that. And most of the time, I do see that happen. But there's scum in every pond, and you just have to make decisions based on what am I going to get out of this? Is that I'm in business? What is the smart business decision? But I will say that when I wrote with Britney, because we had a publisher, which is really important, I didn't get involved in the negotiations. If she had asked for 75% of the song, I would have given it to her on a silver platter with my firstborn sitting on it. You
Right.
know, and
And that makes
because it would
sense.
it would change my life.
Absolutely.
Instead, the publisher said, we know what you contributed, Brittany, and therefore you get 15%. And that was it. It was settled. That's the way it's supposed to be. Um, does it always happen that way? No. But a lot of times it does. There's a lot of, I mean, if you look at a lot of hip hop songs, even ignoring the people who are being credited because of the samples, you'll sometimes see 10 writers on a song.
Absolutely. And
Um,
that was the issue that was going on with him because sometimes you would see up to 36 people sometimes.
oh my gosh, I've never
So
seen
that
that many.
brings to my next question. Tell the people a bit of the importance of having your BMI and ASCAT together so that you can get residual income from it. Tell the people
Okay,
the importance of it.
okay. First of all, what are they? They are what's called performing rights organizations. Most countries around the world only have one. If you live in Sweden, you're going to join STIM. That's all there is. The US being the US, we have 3 performing rights organizations. We have ASCAP, BMI, and a much, much smaller one called SESAC, SESAC. What do? They collect what they call performance royalties. And performance is not what you might be thinking. It's not performing on a stage, doing a concert, although that's a teeny tiny part of it. They're talking about collecting performances as part of television, as part of a radio broadcast. And those are primarily it, streaming. And they collect this money on your behalf because it's impossible for any writer to keep track of, well, how many radio stations played my song? How many, and am I going to go to each one of them and ask them to pay me 12 cents? It's not going to work that way. So these organizations, you can only join one in the US. You cannot be a writer who's with BMI and ASCAP at the same time. You could switch it from one to another, but you can't be in both, or they would both be collecting the same money. That's not going to work. So the only way to get your money from radio airplay, from television uses, is by joining one of these performing rights organizations that are called PROs for short. Super easy to join them, but you have to have a song that's out there generating income, even if it's only online. They collect for, things like YouTube and Spotify and stuff like that. So if you have a song out there, you need to join one of these organizations. Now, listen, I want to pivot because I talked about sync. I said that's really important to talk about sync licensing earlier. I was saying 30 years ago, nobody was thinking about putting their songs in TV or film. Right. Now, why is sync licensing so important? Because there are so few artists who ever record a song that they didn't co-write. So you might say, well, gosh, if I'm a songwriter and I don't want to be the artist, or I'm not the artist, how in the world can I get my songs out there into the world? The answer is we do really good sounding demos that sound just like finished records. And those demos get pitched to publishers, mostly to publishers who have the ability to use your demo to lure in an artist.
Shop around your music.
Right.
For those that, the hood term that we use or the urban term we use is shop around your music.
Absolutely. Right. So they're not shopping it in the hopes that somebody is going to say, I love this song, I'm recording it. They're shopping it in the hopes that somebody's going to say, I love the heart of this song and I want to get involved in it and make it my own. I want to put the rap on it. I just had a situation, well, it's 2 years now. This K-pop band that's based in Hawaii, they're called Crossing Rain. I had 2 songs on their album, and on one of them that was the first single, one of the kids in the band said, I want to write a rap to this song. Well, the song was finished, but he wrote a rap to it, and I was happy to let him do that and give him a percentage of the song, but only the version that included the rap. So what I'm saying is, like in an instance like that, the song is shopped not so much with the intention of, oh, I'm going to get an artist to record this, but it's shopped so that the artist might say, I want to work with this writer, or I want to work with this song and make it mine. So now back to sync licensing. Because you can't get a lot of artists to record your songs, the big outlet today is television and film.
Absolutely.
And I am telling you that like no one was doing this 30 years ago. Now, everybody I'm talking to is saying to me, oh yeah, I switched my whole focus. Now I'm doing sync licensing. And it is a lot easier to get your songs synced than it is to get, pardon me?
Yeah, now they have things like in the dot where you can just fill out the information on the app. You can put your information on there, put whatever song you have, and they'll shop it around for you. And it's sync licensing through Netflix, Disney, and everywhere else.
Right.
So things are a whole lot easier than they were then. And for our artists out here that don't know, that's something that you might want to be interested in. I actually have an account, and some of my music will hopefully be on someone's movie soon. Actually, it will on one for Fentanyl Killer for Star Singletary. But
wow. But you know what you're describing, that company, there's probably hundreds of them. I know there are. So there are two ways really to go if you're into sync licensing. And I don't want to forget, if I knew nothing about how to place my songs with sync in TV and film, first thing I would do is go to jasonblume.com and I would read the articles about sync licensing. Okay,
absolutely.
The next thing I would probably do is join an organization called Taxi, just like a taxi cab, TAXI.com. And their whole thing is connecting people with music libraries, which I'll explain, and music supervisors, which I'll explain. The libraries are just like a library has like tens of thousands of books. A music library has thousands of musical pieces. And when you register your song with that library, you're describing, who it sounds like, what the tempo is, what's the instrumentation, what are the lyrics saying. So it's a time-intensive job to get your songs in these libraries. But believe me, it's worth it. And here's the important thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say like 90% or more of the songs in those libraries are independent artists like you, if you're listening. And they are not looking for big famous artists. They can't afford $500,000 for a Beyonce track, but they can afford $5,000 for a track that sort of sounds like Beyonce. Now, what is probably the most used type of music in sync licensing? Hip hop. Now, I just interviewed somebody who works with a huge number of artists who are seeking to place material. And they said that in their experience, the hip hop that is easiest to place sort of has one foot in the pop market. That it's not, 100, maybe it has like a sung chorus or something that's hooky, but
something catchy.
Yes. So my huge suggestion to anybody who is an artist or just a songwriter out there, you need to be pursuing music libraries, which you can Google, and many of them absolutely will listen to your unsolicited demos, as long as they don't sound like demos. Because you know what? They're not going to re-record them. They're going to take what you send and they are going to put it into the film or the TV show just as is. So it's got to sound like what Taxi calls broadcast quality, meaning it can be recorded in your house. It just shouldn't sound like it was recorded in your house.
Right.
But I'm going to guess 99% of those things that get placed were recorded in somebody's house. So this is an area that is just critical for you to pursue. It's not, like thinking, oh, I want my song recorded by Beyonce. That is a pipe dream. But getting my song in a TV show is not a pipe dream. I'm going to say, I'm not joking. I've worked with tens of thousands of songwriting students over the years. I've been teaching workshops more than 30 years in more than a dozen countries. A day never goes by that I don't hear. Listen to this. A day never goes by that I don't hear from somebody saying to me, I just got a song in a TV show. I just got a song in a big movie. Happens all the time. It's not impossible. So I urge people. I was starting to say there's two ways to do this: music libraries or getting to the music supervisor who actually makes the decisions about which songs go in the TV show or the movie. The problem is it's really hard to get to the music supervisors. Very hard. So,
yeah, it's very hard to talk to the big wigs.
Right. So therefore, you can go through Taxi that has, I'm not going to get into explaining how Taxi works, because if they go to the website, people can learn about it.
Absolutely.
But they can sometimes get right to the music supervisor. But if you can't, you go through the music libraries. And there are also agencies, I guess I would call them agencies, that represent artists, where they sign you and you're going to then present all kinds of music. They're going to tell you what they're looking for. And you're either going to crank it out real fast, or you're going to say, I have this in my catalog. And that would really just be for artists who are really producing their own material, not songwriters who want somebody else to produce the material. Yeah.
So my next question to you is, I'm a go back a bit, right? Uh-huh. Even though we're talking about these gems that you're dropping, the importance of, getting your music out there if you want to sync license your music and all of that, right? I want to go back a bit, because here's something that's been on my mind ever since I first read it about you. And you mentioned it first, right? So working with the Backstreet Boys, right? When you look at Justin Timberlake when he was younger versus now, what do you see, and what did you feel about this group in particular? Because when they came out, they hit people in so many different ways, and it was everywhere. And every community, like, I bought a Backstreet Boys album, and Justin's voice when he was young. You're welcome. Justin's voice when he was young was awesome, but even now at this age has transcended into such a grown, mature voice.
Sure.
And it's awesome. So when you look at the success of him then versus now, what do you feel?
Okay, first I have to clarify, everybody confuses this. Justin Timberlake was in Sync.
In Sync. I mean, not Justin Timberlake. What's the guy's name? The lead singer.
There's not really a lead singer in the Backstreet Boys.
The one with the chin strap. What was his name?
Which one?
The one who had the chin strap beard.
I'm trying to think if that was AJ.
AJ, he had the chin strap beard, and he wore Scully's a lot.
Yeah,
that's Backstreet Boys.
Yeah,
his voice was awesome.
I wrote with all of them, and I want to tell you.
So who do you feel? I did mix him up, and I apologize for that.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. I do mix them up, because I had Backstreet Boys album and I had NSYNC's album. But when you hear him, how do you feel like when you see the commercials and everything now, and they're still doing commercials and their voices still damn near sounds the same, even when they were young versus now? How do you feel like they transcended as artists, and what do you see for them in the future?
I'm going to tell you, I don't have my crystal ball. It's in the shop, so I can't talk about the future. But what I can say,
I like the way you answer, Jason.
These bands, recorded incredible songs. Nobody walks down the street humming a voice. And even though they had great voices and great harmonies, and that whole period, I mean, we had Boys to Men that were incredible. And
They were.
Yes. So, but in all of these instances, there were songs that just totally, that's what it comes down to me, is the song. They were great singers, way better than anybody gave them credit for.
Who would you say had the strongest voice out of all of them?
They had different voices. Every single one of them sang leads, which is just incredible. Yeah, I'm talking about Backstreet. In Sync, definitely Justin Timberlake was the star. But, what I want to stress is having an amazing voice is great, but it's not mandatory to have hits. What's mandatory is having the song that burns into people's brains melodically, lyrically, and they love the song. It speaks to them melodically as well as lyrically. And in terms of, I teach people that if you're going to really break through big, it's got to be something a little bit different. It's like, we've already got all these famous artists. What can you bring to the table that's a little bit different while staying consistent with the genre? And it makes me think of what to me is undoubtedly like the record of this year, Shaboozey.
It was AJ. I had to go back and look. It was AJ that I was talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You were right.
Yeah, that little beard was the giveaway.
Yeah, I got them mixed up sometimes. I do because I listened to both at the same time because they both were out at the same time.
Sure, of course.
And it was like they were going against each other. So let me ask you this. How do you feel about the current state of R&B music and country music? We see a lot of hip hop collabs in country music now.
Mm-hmm.
And R&B music, it's always been like that with R&B music for about 30 years now.
Yeah.
Where do you feel as though it's transcending to now, currently?
I think in a large way, Beyonce changed the landscape, but not in the ways that a lot of people might credit her. Because believe it or not, her country album did not make a really big impact at country radio.
A lot of people felt like she wasn't country, even though she's from Texas.
Right, but the songs didn't feel country to my ear. They felt unique, which is important. But I don't know. I feel like what she did was open up the eyes to the industry, to the country music industry, that, wait a minute, there are all these Black artists that are really good and are really country. Now, all along, we still already had Kane Brown and Darius Rucker and people like that who were having success. And of course, you can go back to Charlie Pride, but it wasn't the kind of acceptance that I think we're getting today. And hearing Shaboozey top the country charts as well as the pop charts, to me, I think there's a change. That, country goes in different directions. It gets real traditional, like old time country, then it goes way over toward pop, and then it'll go back and forth. But I think right now it's going to have more of the pop and hip hop influences. Now, country has had hip hop influences for maybe the last 10 years. You've had raps in country songs.
Yeah,
more important, you've had the hip hop rhythms in the vocals that people were singing,
Absolutely.
Not rapping, but getting more of those really syncopated, interesting rhythms in the songs. So that changed country. But I think now it's going to a next step, to a next level. And thank you, Beyonce, and thank you, Shabuzi, and the other artists who have been waiting in the wings to get some recognition.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some struggles that you've been through personally, as
Mm.
going through your journey in this musical fairy tale, I would say, because for some it might seem like a fairy tale, but for you, like you say, you're lucky. Um, to me, I look at it as a dream come true, because when I hear your story and everything that you just explained to me, there's not many people who would have that experience, So that's a dream come true to me. So tell me a bit about the things that you struggled with as a songwriter, doing what you do, and how you overcame them.
I think the how you overcame them is the most important part,
Absolutely.
because not only in songwriting, in life, there are always going to be obstacles, always going to be challenges. And the whole key is to find the ways around those, as opposed to saying, oh, well, I can't do this. And, I had a lot of limitations as a songwriter. I told you earlier, I'm not a track producer. I tried it and I hate it and I'm not good at it. And it just made more sense for me to hire the people who could really do what I couldn't do, the people who could augment what it is that I do. So initially, that was a brick wall, I thought, because in the beginning, I couldn't even necessarily figure out the chords if they were complicated. I couldn't figure out the chords in my head. I heard them, I knew what they were supposed to be, but I couldn't play them and I couldn't tell you what they were.
Right.
So did that mean I can't write melody? Do I have to just be a lyricist? No. What I found is I could write by singing a cappella into my phone, then and then I'm not limited by my own ability with chords. Then I can go try and figure out what the chords are. And if there's something that I can't figure out, then I paid somebody to say, can I give you $20 to sit with me for 5 minutes and tell me what is this damn chord that I'm hearing here when I sing it for you? And that was not a collaboration, because we were crystal clear up front. All I'm doing is paying you to translate what's in my head into a chord. I'm not asking you to write this song with me, but it is so important to be clear about what is going on here. Are we co-writing, or am I paying you to do a track for me? See, in Nashville, where I spent 25 years writing pop music, but also country music, they just wouldn't dream of paying somebody for a backing track. It's like, that's just, you pay musicians one fee, and then that's it. They don't get credited for playing on the track, even though they might come up with the best hooks in the whole track. But you move outside of Nashville, or even to some extent now, a little bit in Nashville, sure, if you're doing hip hop, if you're doing R&B, where the chords, where the beats, where the track is critically important, in those instances, you've got to decide what is the split going to be. And it's too late when that song's already a hit. That's got to be handled with a split sheet while you're sitting there writing the song. And I know somebody, for instance, who played on a Jason Derulo track. He played guitar, and he is credited as a songwriter. But what nobody realizes looking at it is he only has 10% of the credit. But he came up with a hook and got credited for it. If he
Right.
did that exact same thing on a country song, there is no way that he would get credited. So the
Right.
key is
Because
that
that's
you've
one of the
got,
key elements of country, the chord.
right. And in
Right.
country, most of the time, the chord is not going to be anything out of the ordinary. I mean, maybe
Absolutely.
occasionally, but hip hop and R&B might have more jazzy type chords that matter a lot more. And but also it's the beats, it's the grooves. So if I'm going to write to a pop track, the track writer is going to get 50%. And that's what we're going to agree upon. That's just standard. And I am going to write 100% of everything that comes out of the singer's mouth, the melody and the words. But that is only going to be worth 50% because in those genres, the track is that important. So it's really important to work this stuff out. And to come sort of full circle to your question, this was a big challenge for me as a songwriter, thinking I'm too limited. I can't write melodies because I can't do the tracks. But instead, I found my way around the brick wall to say, okay, I can hire people to do tracks, and I can hire people to help me figure out chords. And, you know, you don't have to be able to do everything. You just have to be able to do at least one thing incredibly well.
Oh
You know,
man, that's awesome. So
Mhm.
let's do the thing that we talked about earlier. Let's inspire the listeners and the viewers. Let's inspire them in a way where they can get a full understanding of what it is we're talking about, what it is we're doing here. Because this was, like I said, it's a special interview for me because you're someone I look up to. Uh, I've known about you for quite a while, but then when I looked up everything that you did, because I didn't know everything, but
Mhm.
then when I looked up everything, it was like, whoa, I did not know he did that. And it blew my mind, Jason. Like when I say it
Thanks.
blew my mind, it made me even more inspired because I am a writer. I write raps, but I want to get into songwriting R&B songs and country songs and gospel songs because I have such an imagination and a big range of
Mhm.
things that I want to write about. So uh, let's show the people
Okay.
what success looks like.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little guided tour. What I wish I could do is go outside and show you the view that
You
success
can,
can
whatever
buy,
you want to
but
do, you can do it.
I can't because it's pouring out right now. And I
Okay,
don't
all right.
want to
Well,
take my
let's.
phone out in the pouring rain. But I am going to take you down my hallway to my
All right.
what I'll call my Hall of Fame. And this is going to sound really arrogant, but this is only a portion of my gold records and things because I have a lot of them in Nashville right now still.
Okay.
So you're looking at my wall. It's sort of hard to show it, to get it all in here. So let me see. We're looking at,
Hey.
wait a minute. Here we go. Which way am I going? Okay. So this is the Oak Ridge Boys, which started a lot for me. That was my first big cut that got me a staff writing deal. Now let's move down and see.
That's
There's
Britain.
Brittany.
That's
I'm having
Britain.
so much trouble figuring out how to do this. Okay, there we go. There's Brittany. And not sure, I guess you can't really read what it says, but it says presented to Jason Blume to commemorate RIAA certified multi-platinum sales. And I don't know if you can see the part that says 16 million worldwide. So let's move on to These are the Backstreet Boys up
Hey,
here for the Millennium album. And right under that, right here, oh, it says up top and at the bottom, 22 million worldwide. But it actually, like I said, I think was at least 24 million. I just couldn't wait to get the plaque. Now we go down here to an artist named Colin Ray, who was a platinum country artist who was smart enough to record 6 of my songs. And now we're moving up to, oh, such an incredible artist, and I love her to pieces. This is Byentl, Byentl, and she went #1 in Europe, I believe in the Netherlands and France, a couple of other places. Oh my God, she can sing. This girl can sing. Incredible. Okay, we are moving on. This is what my shared Emmy Award looks like. I'm not sure if you're seeing it. Let's see. There we go.
there we go.
There we go. It says Academy of Television Arts and Sciences honors Jason Blume composer. So I like that. And then we've got right next to this, the, let's see. This is, come on. This is right here, NSAI, Nashville Songwriters Association, honors Jason Blume for superior creativity in the words and music of the song, I'll Never Stop Loving You. This is a, over here is, let's see, a gold record for my country song, Change My Mind. And this is some sheet music. Can I find it? Let's see.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So I am, like I said to you, the luckiest songwriter on the earth. And I believe very strongly in making our luck. And if we had more time, I would tell you.
We got a few more minutes.
Okay. I would just say that so many of the successes that I've had came about because of choices that I made. And yes, I got incredibly lucky. I know I did, but I wouldn't have gotten lucky without making the choices I made. For example, when I got tired of eating cat food and I wanted to work temp jobs in Los Angeles, I went to an agency that provided temps to the entertainment business. Therefore, after about 10 or more jobs that were like filing in the back room of a television station that wasn't going to help me, they sent me to RCA Records. And that was unbelievable luck, or was it? I signed up with that agency. I wound up staying at RCA Records. My temp job was 3 days. I stayed 8 years. And then another instance of doing, things that make your own luck. When I worked with one of the Backstreet Boys, because I worked with, I guess, almost all of them. When I worked with Kevin, I could tell he did not love the song that we had written. And I said to him, Kevin, I don't know you. You don't know me. I want you to cut this.
That's who he's talking about, folks.
So Kevin is the tall Backstreet Boy with the bushy black eyebrows.
Right.
And we wrote this song together. I knew he didn't love it. I could see it on his face. And I said to him, tell me what's wrong with this song. Now, at this time, I had the #1 songwriting book on Amazon. 6 Steps to Songwriting Success. I've updated it since then, but it's still a very successful book. So here I am, the author of the #1 song, Kevin, who has never written a song in his life until that day, to tell me what's wrong with the song. And he told me it was too complicated melodically. And I went back and I rewrote the song. Was that luck? Well, it was sort of lucky that I got the opportunity to work with him. It's a long story. I only got that opportunity because somebody else canceled. But it wasn't luck that made me rewrite the song to get it on that album. But then the ultimate story of influencing our own luck, of tipping the scales to make us luckier, comes when I was on Wheel of Fortune. Yes, I was on Wheel of Fortune.
Wow.
Why? Because I was so freaking poor. I had, bill collectors calling me twice a day or more. And I just thought, I will never get out of debt. Maybe I could go on a game show and win a lot of money. So I auditioned for Wheel of Fortune and I failed the audition. It was incredibly tough, way harder than you would think, because they say, when the cameras are in your face, you wouldn't even recognize if the puzzle was your own name. Right. So they need people who are exceptional.
Yes, so, it seems like a lot of pressure on that show. I used to watch it with my grandmother a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I went back 3 months later to take the test again. I had studied everything you could study about how often different letters of the alphabet occurred. I knew if there was no clue, I knew which letter had a statistically better chance of being called than any other letter. Right. And I did word puzzles and I studied these kinds of things. And not only did I ace the test, I got on the show. Now, remember, that was not pure luck because I worked at it. Now, the people next to me, you said a lot of pressure. I swear to you, I could see this woman's lips quivering with fear. And of course, she made stupid mistakes. She called letters that were already called. She missed solving puzzles that were obvious. And then it would go to Jason. Jason, who is used to speaking in front of lots of people because I've been teaching, and Jason, who is an extrovert and comes alive when the cameras are in my face.
Yes, I can definitely see that.
I freaking cleaned up. I became a 3-time undefeated champion who walked away with a new car, a trip to Mexico, all kinds of stuff, and enough money to write a check and be out of debt. And I've never had 1 penny of debt since then. So, luck, was I just lucky? Yes, I was lucky to not hit a bankrupt at certain times. I was lucky to not lose a turn. I was not only lucky because I studied and I did what I needed to do to give myself an edge. And that is what we have to do as artists and songwriters. Give them a compelling reason to choose you instead of any of your other competition.
Hey, that's a gem, folks. Y'all hear that?
That's the deal. It's what we've got to do. They're not going to pick you just because you are nice. It's got to be something in that music that's pushing the envelope, that's exceptional, that's better than just well done. And with that, I think I'm going to end because I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, that does that covers everything, and I want to say this to you. Everything that you just told us today was very informational. It was very clean. and precise and straight to the point. I appreciate you for coming on my show, sharing your story, sharing your vulnerability. And like you said, you're an extrovert. You're great at speaking with people. And that's something that I enjoy a lot, because sometimes when people come on my show to talk about the vulnerable things they've been through, they have a hard time doing it. So for you to do this was a breath of fresh air as well. And everybody that's been on my show has been a breath of fresh air, because when I first started, I felt as though this would be hard to do. But now that the more I do it, the more I realize that, hey, there are so many people with so many different stories, and you never know what a person's been through. So with you coming on, I want to say I appreciate you. I look up to you. I thank you for coming on once again. And we got to do this again. We have to do it again.
Sounds good to me. I'm going to close by telling everybody one more time, please go to jasonblume.com and get those articles that are free that will really help you. And you'll also see when you go there, you can get a free weekly newsletter with really, really helpful tips. And I hope you'll do it. So thank you. Best of luck on your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, sir.
You are so welcome.
There you have it. Jason Blume came on the Pot Podcast with Tigmatic, and he gave some gems to you folks. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you soaked up the knowledge and you continue on what you want to do musically. And you know that without God, anything is impossible. Everything's possible with God. So without him, it ain't going to work. So I'm going to say that. So with that being said, thank you for coming on once again. And to the folks out there watching Music Dreams USA Radio, Hustle 215 Radio, y'all know what it is. Hey, we're out of here, folks. Till next time. Jason, you stay on. We're going to talk.